to another Lunch and Learn with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie Nielsen, and I'm a partner here at Purse Strings. For those of you who are new, we come on every week to talk about tips, tricks, pieces of advice on how to be financially fearless. And then when you are, either going through a divorce, need a will, planning for retirement, maybe having kids, any different financial transition or transaction, we have top-tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. All month here at Purse Strings, we've been talking about divorce. So we're going to kind of finish up the month about finding financial stability following divorce with Kelley, who is one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. But before we dive into all that fun, Kelley, could you give us a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Kelley Hughes. I'm a financial advisor with Consolidated Planning, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, and my company is Smart Divorce Decisions. I focus primarily on working with women who are going through a divorce or who have recently been divorced and are looking for ways to recover financially from sometimes divorce can really change how you thought life was going to go. And so I help them navigate all of that.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you on today and have you share your expertise. Anyone who's tuning in live, if you have questions along the way, throw them in the chat. We're happy to work on those. And if you're watching the replay, you can still put them in the chat and we'll come back to them. So to get started, after a divorce, it can feel like a whirlwind. So what are some of the first steps in kind of finding that financial stability?
Okay, so the first step, you need to gain an understanding of your total cash flow. And so this is gathering together all of the different income sources that you have, whether it's from earned income, whether it's from passive income, child support, spousal support, all of the different inflows of cash into your financial picture. And then this is sometimes the hard part. You need to understand what your actual monthly expenses are. It's sometimes you just got to get real and look at the numbers in black and white. Now, sometimes your expenses occur on a monthly basis. Sometimes they occur on a quarterly basis, and sometimes they're an annual expense. And those annual expenses are easy to forget, right? But you have to understand every bit of your picture. You have to understand what's coming in and what's going out. Sometimes your income sources like child support and spousal support are going to happen on a stair-stepped timeline. And so it's important to understand what that means for you as well. And you need to consider all of those different expenses that happen on different timelines and the stair-step timeline of your income when you're figuring out your budget, right?
Yeah, that diving in, that's probably the hardest part. Is kind of really seeing what all those payments are for monthly, quarterly. Those annual ones always get me every time.
Yep. So then after you understand your cash flow, then you need to determine how you're going to handle unexpected life expenses. So I mentioned I'm a financial advisor, and very few people can afford an unexpected medical expense, right? And very few people can afford an interruption in their income. So it's really important, and I know this is counterintuitive, but it's important to carry health insurance, an individual disability insurance policy, an umbrella policy, and the maximum coverage on your home and auto insurance. Because, most people, if they can't handle a medical expense out of pocket, then they're going to have to use credit cards to pay that bill. Or worse, they're going to have to harm their credit score by not paying the bill. And neither of those options are acceptable for long-term stability.
I love how you bring up kind of those different insurance plans, because that's something we don't talk about enough. And it's kind of, do you have the cash up front to pay what you're not paying monthly, because you either pay more every month or you have a bigger copay or whatever it may be.
Right.
And so that's something that we don't talk about enough, but is really great, especially now that you're on your own and trying to take care of yourself. You want to make sure you have all those ducks in a row.
Exactly. And so when I'm working with my clients, one of the first things I'm looking at is their home and auto insurance and whether or not they're carrying an umbrella insurance policy, because without adequate coverage, someone could actually face wage garnishment for damages from a lawsuit. And so we don't want any unexpected expenses like that. And we definitely want to be able to handle unexpected expenses without impacting your own savings.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's a great tip. So first, then you start kind of with that insurance and making sure they have those different things. What's kind of the next step as we dive into this new normal?
Okay, so then let's talk about savings, right? Okay, so understanding what your cash flow is and then making sure that you have insurance in place to handle the unexpected. Now it's time to really start investing in yourself. And so if people can manage their lifestyle expenses so that they can save between 15 and 20% of their of all of the income that they have coming in. Eventually they get to the point where they're able to have 6 to 12 months worth of living expenses set aside. Now, I'm not talking about your 401k, right? This needs to be a nest egg set aside in an account that you can easily access and that you're not going to have to pay taxes on, and you're not going to have to pay penalties on, right? It's liquidity so that you can handle whatever life is going to throw at you and handle it on your own.
Yeah, definitely. We usually recommend like a high yield savings account, but that liquidity is what's key. We want to make sure we can get our hands on that right away.
Right.
We want that fast cash.
Right.
Definitely. And so, you're talking about building up this emergency fund and all these different things. So it can take a while to build, it seems like. I mean, after coming out, you never know what someone's situation is right out of after divorce, if they have to get a job or move, different things. I mean, these are all very expensive items. So is there like a time frame of recovery from divorce?
So I think it all depends on, number one, if you're working to a financial plan, right? Number two, it depends on which assets you're taking with you from your divorce. How liquid are they? Are they easy to access, or are they going to actually cost you money to access those funds? And also, how quickly can you increase your income? Now, it took me about 4 years to recover financially after my divorce. And so I took a step back in my lifestyle expenses for the first couple of years. I rented a townhouse and I saved money, and I put all of the protection products in place that I needed. And some other time, I'll tell you the story about my daughter totaling my minivan and why my umbrella policy came in handy for that. But then eventually I was able to get all of the steps in place, and I actually bought a house last year.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. And so it took a while for me to establish that stability, but it worked, and I have peace of mind from it now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think when we talk about divorce, chances are there's some kids around. And so those different policies are great because your kids are going to cost you something sometime. Something's going to happen, I promise.
Right.
And so to prepare for that as a single parent, is essential.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then I also kind of like how you said, you rent an apartment. We talk so much about, buying real estate is the way to go. It's, buy a house and all this stuff. But sometimes that's just not the best situation for us at that time. And I know, like, living in the Midwest, shoveling and then doing the lawn and then doing all these things are not going to happen all the time. We got too many things going on. So it's like, I can't make that investment right now. And that's okay.
And honestly, when I was first out of the marital residence and I was thinking about what I wanted to focus on, yard work and housework were not my top priorities at that time. I needed to rediscover what my dreams were for the next chapter in my life and really focus on the steps I needed to take to make some of those happen.
Yeah, definitely. And so you got to prioritize, what's best, and not always like it's, invest in real estate. That's what you should be doing, because it just comes and goes at the right times in our life.
Yeah.
And so who should be on your team when when you're starting this new leg, after your divorce is finalized?
Okay. All right. Well, surprise, surprise, but I'm going to say a financial planner, right?
No way.
And I'm a little biased, but I do think it needs to be a CDFA that you're working with so that they are well versed in the options available to you post-divorce. It's a specific set of problems with a specific set of solutions. And so you do want an expert in your situation. I also see a lot of my clients who are dealing with post-divorce tax obligations. So I recommend a CPA because a good CPA will help you determine whether or not there's any relief available from the IRS for your situation. And most people think that financial planners and CPAs only work with wealthy people, but that's absolutely not true. That's not. Oh, don't forget about an estate attorney. You do not want your ex being the person responsible for your end of life decisions or being the sole beneficiary on all of your assets. Okay. An estate attorney can help you determine whether or not a trust is a good solution for your situation. And so anytime you have heirs from a previous marriage, you definitely want to talk that through with an estate planning attorney and expert. Most financial planners are the right place to start because they usually have a CPA and an estate attorney that they're already working with and can refer you to. And they also have resources to help you find the insurance that you need for your situation.
Awesome. And so we've talked a lot, throughout this month about having a CDFA kind of during the divorce process. But why is it so essential to have one kind of once the divorce is closed? I know, it's legal. There's not much more you can do after that. So why is a CDFA still essential to have on your team?
Well, okay. So let's think about the average woman who went through a divorce. She was married maybe for a significant amount of time, and she thought that her life was going to follow a certain timeline. She thought that retirement was going to happen at a certain age and was going to look a certain way. And now she's in a situation where she gets to make the rules, she gets to make the plans. But, depending on how her settlement happened, she may not necessarily have the resources to work with that she originally was planning on. And so she may need to pivot and come up with a new strategy. CDFAs are fully aware of all of the implications of a divorce and all of the long-lasting effects of a divorce. And a good CDFA works with a client after the divorce is over and helps them navigate the different situation that they're facing the rest of their life with. It's just having that expertise and that particular focus on this life circumstance is absolutely critical to have.
Right. Definitely. And then you're saying, there's almost a checklist I know some professionals have kind of after divorce that there's a bit of a cleanup process of making sure that will and those trusts are updated, those power of attorneys. I know some life insurance, if that needs to be changed or whatever that is, and then making sure the taxes are all good. It is kind of that next year of making sure everything's then transferred over to, the names that you want to have there in place.
Right. Well, okay. And then I would add to that checklist, now is the time to start dreaming, right?
Yeah.
Once you have figured out exactly what your living expenses are, and you figured out how you need to save so that you have a nest egg set aside, and if you needed to purchase some insurance to help you handle unexpected life events, once you have all of that in place, then it's time to start dreaming. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Where do you want to travel? Where do you want to live? What career changes do you need to make so that you have fulfilling work for the rest of your life, right? And it's also time to start dreaming long-term. When do you want to retire? And what do you want your retirement to look like? Now, something I see often, this is not the time to start planning on fully funding your children's college educations, right? Because, you can do that after you have figured out how to save enough money for your own needs. Otherwise, you could find yourself needing to move in with the kids when they're hitting their stride as an adult because you don't have enough to cover your own expenses, right? And even worse than that, you may never get to live your own dreams, right?
Yes. please. I appreciate you bringing that up because so often we see parents putting their kids first and their college tuition first, where your kid's tuition will have plenty of time to be paid off. Your kid can do that. You got to fund your own retirement, or let your kid know up front that that's the deal, that if they're paying for school, you're paying for their retirement, because these conversations need to be had.
Yes.
And it's essential that, parents do put themselves first at some time and, plan their own retirement before funding their kids.
Absolutely. I mean, your children's financial well-being is reliant on you establishing your own financial well-being.
100%, 100%. Let me see if anyone tuning in has any questions. I feel like we've already gone through a ton of great information. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you want to make sure, shared today?
I can't stress enough how important it is to talk to a financial planner. Really, people think that, oh, I should talk to a financial planner after I pay off all this credit card debt. Well, listen, a financial planner can help you understand your entire situation and develop a pay down plan so that you can make some really good progress after your divorce. But you can do it in a way that you're also establishing that financial stability you need for yourself.
Right. And that's building the plan long term. First we're going to work through your debt together, and then we both know what your next goals are, which is nice to see that whole plan. And I know sometimes we talk about, paying off debt is just, that's not going to drive you. Like, what's after that? What paying off that debt, what does that allow you to do next? Whether that's start saving for a home or something else, but like that way you can talk to someone about your real goals, because just paying off the debt is not going to drive you by the end of the day. That's not your life satisfaction.
Exactly. And personally, my personal approach to this is I think it is equally as important that you are establishing that life expense nest egg at the same time you're working on paying down debt, because I've seen it work very well. Otherwise, people are just caught up in a nonstop consumer credit cycle.
Yeah, definitely. We see that a lot, and we want to make sure we break that.
Right.
Well, yeah, thank you for providing all this great information today. And so if people have more questions, I know your email's been going through the bottom here, kelley.hughes@cplanning.com. Is there any other way you like people to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Please visit my website, smartdivorcedecisions.com. And I do have a set of virtual workshops that's coming up next month, getting started. And I would love for people to tune in, and we can dive a little deeper into the process for establishing financial stability after divorce.
Awesome. What are the topics of your?
The first session is understanding your money. Right? Remember, awesome. I said that the first step is gaining an understanding of your total cash flow. So we're going to go through in detail how to do that. And then the next session talks about getting financially organized. This is probably the most painful and most homework intensive session of the workshop, but it is life-changing once you get all of your information together and you truly understand your entire financial picture. And then the last session is reaching your goals, coming up with, a timeline for your goals and figuring out how you can adequately save. And maybe some of those goals need to be pushed out a little farther, and maybe some of them need to happen a little sooner. Who knows? But those are the topics that we'll be discussing in my workshop.
I love it. That sounds like a ton of fun. And yeah, those are great topics to be touching on. They're all absolute essentials.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again, Kelley, for coming on today. Everyone could reach out to Kelley through email. Check her out on pursestrings.co. And that wraps up our divorce month. Next month, we're going to be moving into all different types of investments. So now, we know what to do with our money. Let's get it invested. So thank you again, Kelley, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, Maggie.
Bye.
Bye.